Okay, let's talk backgrounds today. I've done a research lately. I used a lot of different background systems and I want to share my experience. I want to share the backgrounds in different price brackets, and the cheapest background is just a wall behind you. And actually the gray wall, I'd say it's the best one, because with the proper exposure you can make it white or you can make it black. And then you compensate with the lights, so you have different exposure on your model than on the background. The problem with the wall is that there might be cracks on the wall, it might be unevenly painted, there might be light switches like here or the sockets, so it might be annoying. There might be ugly carpet and there also might be ugly edge. So this is the cheapest one, but there are sometimes problems with the wall, and usually there is some furniture on the wall, so basically you cannot use the wall as a background. So we can assume that the wall is a free background, and then we are going to move up the ladder with the cheapest to the most expensive solutions with the backgrounds. And almost every of the solution I used extensively, so I can share my experience. So next one is actually a system like this. I paid for this one like $40 maybe, with one background included. And this is basically plastic background. The material is something like you use in the garden lining. Basically, it is almost the same as garden lining. Maybe it's actually the same. And this one is like 2 meters and 10 centimeters high. I can actually make it a bit higher if I collapse the legs of the stands a bit more, but then it starts to be kind of dangerous that it can fall on you or on your talent. And this one is like 1 meter 60 centimeters wide, so it is like 5.5 feet, something like that. And you can have different configurations of this. And this is like 5 meters long, so you can actually have full body shot if you're doing a photos, if you are recording a video, also full body shot. It depends if you're shooting vertically or horizontally. There are plenty of options, like I've seen the widest, which are 5 meters wide, and there are 30 meters long. I paid like $40 for this, but nowadays I've seen it like for $50-60 for the 2 stands and the pole, plus these crocodile clips. You have to use 2 crocodile clips to prevent it from rolling down. And you can see it is kinda mangled because this was unrolled several times, so already there are some creases. If I stand on it, there are the creases on the floor. It is not perfect, but it's also not bad. If your model is quite away from the background or you use quite shallow depth of field, these creases are not that visible. The only problem might be that they create some shadows, but it's not that problematic. It works quite nice. Main pro is that it's quite cheap, so you can probably have this size system for like $50 nowadays with one background, like this plasticky one. It takes like 5 to 10 minutes to deploy it. If you have experience, it's like more like 5 minutes, although I recommend having at least 2 shot bags, one shot bag on each stand to prevent it from collapsing. This can actually take a beating, like you can stand on it and it won't tear up easily. It can get dirty quite easily, so if somebody is with his or her shoes on it and the shoes are dirty, that would get dirty, and the plasticky one, you are not really able to wash it. So that's the con. And pro at the same time, you can create full body shots with it, especially with the vertical frame. If you buy the wider one, then you can have a full body shot, and you can even record a podcast if you have like 4 or 5 meters wide version, which is like up to 16 feet or maybe more. So it is quite cheap, but very versatile option for the background. And with this system you can use these plastic ones. So I have three colors to choose, like green skin, white, and the gray one. I recommend the gray one if you can afford one, because the gray one you can make it white and you can make it black if you use proper exposure. So the gray one is the most neutral. This is actually quite dark gray, but it works quite well for photos. I don't think I use it for video, but you can, it's not a problem. So actually the height of this one is limited by the height of the stands. If you have bigger stands, you can just buy this horizontal pole and you can choose the width of the pole or the length of the pole to your liking, and you can have it like 5 meters long. Although for 5 meters you have to use something sturdier than this, because this is like aluminum pipe with really thin walls, so this would probably bend if it is 5 meters long, but with a better stance you can have a longer pipe. You can use just normal steel pipe and you would be good to go. You have just to drill 2 holes and it's just easy to make, so you can make it itself for a fraction of this cost if you already have the light stands. And then for the backgrounds you have like 3 options, I'd say, maybe 4. So one option is these plastic ones. They are like from $10 to $50, depends how wide how long they are. You have also a paper ones. The most known is Savage paper. So for Savage paper you last almost 100 different colors, and their colors are fantastic, and in theory they are quite time resistant, so they don't change color over time. I don't know, I haven't used the Savage one yet, but you have an option to use the paper one. So the difference is that paper one can tear up quite easily, but with paper ones you buy them on the like 10, 20 or 30 meters, which is like 100 feet long rolls, and then if it's mangled you just cut it and you unroll more and you're good to go. So the paper ones are like from $20 to infinity, like these wide ones, and long ones are almost $400, so they can be quite expensive. And also another option are textile backgrounds, so you can buy the textiles on the rolls like this, and also the price range is quite wide, like from $20 to infinity, I'd say. But the pro is that the 4th option is that you can buy a textile material on the roll like that in the textile shop, and you can paint your own background there, your own texture, or you can buy the textile material with some texture and you can use it. So it doesn't have to be like photographic background, photographic material, because basically if you add photographic textile background, you add the word photographic, the price goes 3 times up. So basically you can buy any textile material and use it as it is, or paint it with your background and use it. So there are actually 4 options for this, and you can see it is quite easy to deploy. So it is as easy to change the background, so it takes like 5 minutes to change to different color, so it's not a big deal, but at the same time it's not as fluid as it can be. So I use this one a lot, especially in my home studio as a background, and it was quite okay, but I prefer other faster solutions, so we can go and explore other solutions for the backgrounds. This one is a basic one. I think this one is the cheapest, and I will try to list all the products I'm talking about as affiliate links in the description below, so you can easily find them either on Amazon or someone else. I think this system is the cheapest. The only cheapest background is the wall. So what are the cons? The main con is it is not sturdy, as you can see. So this can collapse on your talent if the talent is not paying attention. So we basically need 2 short bags. So this additional cost, like probably if you use sandbags, is probably like another $20 to be sure it won't collapse. And these plastic ones, if they have wrinkles, it is really hard to remove the wrinkles, because you're not really able to iron it, because this would melt. So basically, if this is wrinkled, you have to either leave with wrinkles, and you have to swap the whole roll for the new one. The new roll is like $10. It depends on the width, but I paid for this like I think 10 maybe $15 for these spare rolls. So it is not that expensive. Okay, the next option for the background is this background, which is hang on the wall. I'm using the autopole system to mount it. So basically this autopole, there are autopoles from Manfrotto. This is a knockoff from Gravity and works exactly the same as the Manfrotto one. And you can mount these poles vertically and horizontally. This one is mounted horizontally, and basically how that works, you extend the pole, for example, to the ceiling like that, and then you lock it with that lever. I won't lock it here because it's fake ceiling, so I might break the ceiling here, but generally you extend it and lock it, and it takes like 30 seconds to do it. So this is the pole like that between the walls. The room is like 9 feet wide, so 2.7 meters, and this pole goes up to 3.5 meters, something like that. So, and also there are extension for this rod, so you can go like up to 5 meters, although you cannot hang anything really heavy if you use the extended version. On this it is like up to 10 kilos, maybe more, but it depends on the configuration. And here this background is 2.6 meters wide and 5 meters long. So as you can see, you can basically have the full body shot and you still have the background on the floor. So this is a big pro of this background system. It is also quite easy to deploy. It takes like 15 minutes tops, although you have to have a ladder to be able to attach it that high. So basically that pole is around $70, maybe even cheaper. There are cheaper knockoffs, and you can also buy a pole like that in the hardware store. They are used to install the fake ceiling. So in the hardware store, it is like $30. So basically it is really cheap. The Manfrotto one is like $120 or something like that, but this is the knockoff for 70, and you can get them cheaper in the hardware store. And basically you attach the pole there, and then it is attached with the crocodile clamps to the background. I guess I have to show it with the other camera. So it is attached with the crocodile clamps to the pole, and the most important thing is you have to stretch it. So there are really no creases. There are still some creases because this is that kind of the material, that there are creases on that material, but there are no big creases and bumps, because if you have bumps, like for example here is a bump on the side, so this will create the ugly shadow on the photo, but since it is in the corner, it's not a big problem. So this is a really nice cheap alternative for full body shots. Although there are cons, it's quite prone to wrinkles. It moves on the floor over time, so you have to fix it from time to time, like every 2 sessions you have to fix it. Then it can get dirty quite easy, especially if people walk with their shoes on it. So then you have to wash it in the washing machine. So it is out of use for like 1 day. It is kind of annoying to swap. Like I have another one, different color, and it takes like around 10 to 15 minutes to swap, and you have to use the ladder. So it is kind of annoying. You won't swap it mid-session, definitely, unless like there is a break and the model goes to the bathroom, goes to eat something, goes to drink something, then you can swap it. But if you have fast-paced session and there is a good flow on the session, you won't swap it. So that's the big con, that is really hard to swap. But if it's there, it's there, and you can actually have this as a background for the full body shot, and then you can deploy like Kate's collapsible background or Lastolite collapsible background. So It is okay, and I use it sometimes both for the standing shots and also for the shots with the armchair or with the hawker. And also, if you use pole like that, you can mount any other backgrounds. Like you can mount this plastic background on the roll. You have just to thread a cord through this paper roll, and you just hang it via the cord, and then you have the background which can be deployed quite fast, although it is still quite annoying to swap the background because you have to climb the ladder, deattach the one which is hanging there and attach another one. You can also attach that way textile backgrounds on the roll, and you can also attach the paper backgrounds on the roll the same way, but still you are limited to only one background which is hanging on this autopole or gravity pole. So it is an option, but it is quite limiting option because you have only one background at the time. But the big pro is that you can have it for full body shots. Like here, this is a really wide lens and I have the floor and the background in the shot. This is okay for up to 35 millimeters on the full frame, and you can still have the whole frame with the background is really okay for 50 millimeters and up. Yeah, so the whole thing is around 120, maybe 130 bucks if you count the clamps. So it is not that bad, and you can actually buy any textile material in the textile shop and hang it, so you can buy it quite cheap in the normal textile shop. It doesn't have to be a photographic background. This is kind of photographic background, it's sold as photographic, but it's quite cheap material. It is just colored that way that there is a texture, and in Poland it's called gnieciuch. And I don't know if there is a name for it in English speaking word, but basically it's a textile, and you can buy different textile materials and you can paint your own texture, and a lot of people do it that way, so they have original texture then it is not that anyone else have the same texture. And you can actually, if you buy a thick material, you can paint both sides, so it is quite flexible, although it is quite hard to hang. So if you have it hanging, then you usually don't change it. So I had two of these in my two different sets, but lately I just have this one because usually here I'm shooting full body shots because there is a big enough light to do it. So that's another cheap option, which is, I'd say, quite good, although it is really hard to swap. Then there are case collapsible backgrounds. They are 5 by 6.5 feet. So it is like 1.5 by almost 2 meters. And the shape is kind of oval. The pros are that they are double-sided, quite easy to deploy, and they are quite cheap. There is also quite a big choice of colors, and since they are double-sided, I think they have more choices in terms of colors. Like you have a lot of choices of pairs of colors. I think I've seen at least 20 on Amazon. Like, definitely I've seen one listing with 10 different configurations of the colors, and on another listing there were different colors, and sometimes there are mix of colors. So you have a lot of choice in terms of colors. Like if you buy 2 of them, you got 4 different distinguishable backgrounds. So what are the cons? The shape, it's quite oval, so you lose the corners, so actually usable area is like that for photos. Also, the material is kind of a magnet for dirt particles. Like there are already plenty of them. It is like plush, so the dirt is attaching to the material from the air. So that's kind of annoying, although usually the background is blurred enough so you don't see the dirt, but it's there. Like there are plenty of particles of dirt on the background at the moment. So generally with that size and shape, you can go up to cowboy shot, I'd say. Of course, you can do full body shot if your subject is close to the background, but then you have another background on the floor. So basically, if you are doing photos, if someone stands close to the background, then you can see that the cowboy shot would be okay, and the full body shot, maybe if I really stretch it to the floor. And another pro is also the price. It is $86 in States and more or less the same here in Europe. So it is not that expensive, and with the price you have two backgrounds actually. And another con is the mounting system, because it is mounted with such an arm. This arm is, I bought this arm for around $20. Now it's like more like 30. And you got these pinchers at the end. So you have to pinch the metal band which is inside to be able to attach it. So let's see how long it takes to swap it to another side. So I have to deattach it, the other side deattached itself. Now I have to move it to the other side. Then I have to reattach the bar. I have to see if it is leveled. It's not really. Now maybe. And now I can attach it to the stand. Screw it in. And I guess it was under a minute, and you can see there is another side which seems like clouds, something like that. This one is also nice. The other one is some kind of the spotlight, and it gives this vintage look. So definitely both sides are really nice on this one, and I got these colors because Lastolite does not have such a blue color, and the other one was just, and this combination was actually the fastest available in Poland. I would probably choose something different. It would be available like this blue and something different on the other side, but this was the one which was available quite fast, and for the rest I would have to wait like a month or something. So I got this one. I shot some photos on both sides. They work fantastic for the photo, and I recorded a lot of videos on the vintage side, and it is also a very nice background. So I don't know, swapping it was like 2 minutes probably, but as you can see, it's not really seamless. Like this attachment is not very strong. So if you have a model on set, you have to ask model to leave the set, and then you have to swap it. It's not that seamless, although it's quite fast. So it is also quite fast to deploy and to collapse. I would try to collapse it. Some people have problems. I had problems before with collapsing such backgrounds. Not sure there's enough room to do it, but maybe. So basically you put it like that. You have to fold both sides and at the same time push it to the front. You can do it the other way around. So push it to inside, and now it is collapsed and takes not that much space. And there is also a cover back, so you can put it inside. Not sure it will fit because it's collapsed a bit unevenly, but it should, or not. And you can have it in the bag, and to open it, you just take it from the bag and just open like that. And there are also velcros on the side, velcro loops, so you can actually attach it to a pole and have it like that. And if you want to take group photo, then you can use it like that, but it's like, I'd say up to the waist probably with this configuration, with the horizontal configuration. 99% of the time I use it in the vertical position for the portraits up to cowboy shot. So that's that. So it is quite easy to install and use, and generally I'm quite happy about them, but I think the Lastolite ones are better, although the Lastolites are more expensive. Double-sided background like that you can have for like 120 bucks, because there's the background, there's the stand, and there is this arm to attach it. So more or less the stand with the arm is like around 40 bucks, and the background is 90 bucks. And it's nice also to use a shot back, so this don't collapse on your model. That system is a bit annoying, that mounting system is a bit annoying. I kind of hope that I would be able to attach this background using Lastolite magnetic system, but unfortunately it's not possible. Then there are Lastolite by Manfrotto collapsible backgrounds, and I tend to use these the most lately. Like I shot few sessions already using them, and I use them for the video too. They are fantastic, I'd say. And you can see the shape is different than the Kate's background, and also the size. So let's compare them. So Lastolite is a bit taller, like 10 centimeters taller, and you can see this is also a bit wider, and actually these corners are much bigger. So the case one is oval, this is almost a rectangle, so this one is definitely better. You can see this one has a texture, so it is kind of like a spotlight, but you can change the exposure using the exposure in the camera, so you can make it even black, or really dark, or you can make it brighter. You can also use a spotlight like that to create the spotlight on the background. And the biggest pro of this is the magnetic mount system. So basically to swap it, I think it is much faster. So basically to swap it, I have to lower it because I'm not that tall, and here are two magnets. You detach the background from the magnets, you lose your flip-flop, and you swap the background to the other side. Then it attaches with the magnets, and it is swapped already. So it is much faster, it is much safer, I think. Of course, I always ask my model to move away when I'm swapping the background, to not hit anyone in the head. But basically now I can raise it, and it is like 30 seconds to swap the background. And this side is called aubergine, so this is kind of violet one, and there is also a texture, some kind of the spot with the darker texture close to the frame, and it got a bit dirty, but it's better. But the material is more elastic than in the case background, and it is kinda slick one, so it's not a magnet for the dirt as the case background, because the case background are kinda plushy. So I think this one is better, but the con is this is 2.5 times more expensive than the case background. So you can get one for like 200 bucks if you're lucky enough, because lately they got a bit more expensive. And the magnetic hanger without the stand is like 70 bucks, something like that. And you can have a version with a stand, then it's like 150 bucks. So it is totally stupid to buy it with a stand because it's really expensive and this stand is a really basic one. So I actually bought the second magnetic hanger because I'm lazy, so I want to have at least two, because I don't want to screw it, unscrew it from the stand and move to the different set. So I would have at least two on my different sets. Here in the studio, I have one here, and this studio is just for portraits. It's actually cowboy shot and up. If I want, I can shoot the full body shot here and then, for example, extend the background using the AI background fill. It's not a problem nowadays, but actually the lights here are 3 feet wide, so it is actually just for portraits and up to cowboy shot, and anything wider, it's problematic here. So that's why this size of the background, it is actually enough for this studio when I shot mostly portraits and like medium shot, maybe cowboy portraits and close-up. So this background is really fantastic for that. And actually I already ordered 2 other backgrounds. So as you can see, you have 2 colors, but compared to the case backgrounds, I think the choice of the pairs is more limited. Like, for example, the red is always with this violet one. The blue one is always with the green one on the other side. They are usually textured. So for the case one, there are textured and non-textured, usually textured, but these I think are only textured, unless, although there are few with a solid color. So it is black, white, green, blue for chroma keying. And I think I've seen also solid red and solid blue maybe, but most of them are kind of textured and they have this hot spot. And you can use them, of course, in the vertical and horizontal position. I also use them in video in the horizontal position, and they are good to fill up the frame up to 35 millimeters field of view, 35 millimeters and up. But of course, it depends how far away is your camera from the background. So I really like this. The pros are that they are quite easy to install and open, especially with this magnetic mount. They are very easy to swap sides. As you've seen, it's like 30 seconds to swap it, maybe 1 minute. And it's much less annoying than case background, which have these pinchers arm. It's quite good quality, it's quite good material, it is quite dense and it is not transparent. So it's solid material. Although there are cons, so one con is that, not sure you can see, but there are some wrinkles, and even though it is hanging here for a week or more, there are still some wrinkles, and this material seems to be prone to elongate and it's losing its elasticity. It seems so, I don't know. But the wrinkles are not that visible. Even at f8, you don't see the wrinkles because there is a texture on the background, so it's not a big deal, but it is not as stretchy as you might think. I thought it would be really stretchy. It is stretchy, but still you can see there is some play. There are still some wrinkles on the background. They are not as pronounced as you can see on this camera, but there are wrinkles, but you don't see them if you take photos and the background is like 1 meter behind the subject. You don't see these wrinkles, but they are here, and I'm kind of surprised that even though there is this springy frame inside, it is not stretchy enough to remove the wrinkles. Maybe I can use the steam iron to remove the wrinkles, but they are actually not really annoying, so it's not a problem. But also here seems it is not stretchy enough or not stretched enough, because there is some permanent wrinkle down there and on the other corner. So I'm kind of surprised there is, so maybe it was not stretched enough when it was sewn in, and there is some wrinkle, but since it is in the corner, it's not really a big deal, but it's there. So there are wrinkles, but they are not problematic. The other cons are that there are a lot of different colors of these backgrounds, but there are not a lot of combinations. So basically you have always one combination of colors, and for example this violet is always with the red on the other side, but with case background I think there are more combinations, and you can have the blue one with different color on the other side. So that's the plus of case backgrounds. Another con is that these are quite expensive, like 2.5 times more expensive than case one, or maybe two times more expensive. Sometimes they are hard to get, like some colors are really hard to get. So that might be a con, and when I asked one of the retailers, they told me that they can get the color I want, but it would be within 2 months. So quite hard to get. And that con might be that this material seems to be prone to elongating. So either it is sewn in wrongly, or it is already elongated. And I think this one is easier to collapse. So let me see if I can detach it. Yes, I can. So this one seems to be easier to collapse, I think, than the case background, but maybe I'm wrong. So basically I just do it like that and then step to the front and it is collapsed. So this one seems to be easier to collapse than the case background, but maybe because it is not as tight as the other one, but I can see that the other one also have some wrinkles. So to open it, it's like that. I almost hit my camera, but based on the... So maybe I don't have to lower it. I can attach it like that, and it is attached. So that's the main pro of this system, then to take it down, swap the sides, collapse it. It's much faster than case background or any other background system like that, because what I've seen that also Neewer has these collapsible backgrounds, but I haven't found any of their backgrounds in Europe, and I haven't found any of Neewer backgrounds on Amazon. So I don't know if they are still available or not, but I've seen a lot of videos regarding the Neewer backgrounds on YouTube, but seems they are not sold anymore. So in theory there are such backgrounds as the case background from Neewer, but I haven't found them. But I actually prefer the Lastolites over the case backgrounds because how easy it is to attach and swap it. But the main con is that this is like 2 or 2.5 times more expensive than the case background. But also another pro is that the shape is better because you don't have to worry to keep your model really in the center of the background because it's more rectangular than the case background. So one background with 2 sides and the magnetic mount, it's like 280, maybe $300. So it is quite expensive, but it is very flexible solution. And when I got the other two, I would have 6 different backgrounds which I can swap within 30 seconds because I can have 2 of them on the sides of the studio already expanded, and I just swap them, and so I can actually keep them behind that one, and that's the pro of this system. So I was debating, I'm going to buy the case backgrounds or this one and this one, although as you know they are more expensive than the case background. So if budget is the factor, then I guess get the case background because you can have like double the amount of backgrounds for the same price. So case are much cheaper, and in terms of the quality, I think they are quite close. So it's a different material, but still it's very solid in the case background, and you have bigger choice of combinations of backgrounds, I think. So that's the Lastolite collapsible background, and now we have more expensive options to explore. So another option is also Wescott X-Drop Pro. So this is the system with a stand. I don't have it, I plan to buy it, but lately I bought Lastolite and I'm quite happy with them. So at the moment I won't buy Wescott unless I have some on-location shoots which are going to pay for the Wescott background. So I would buy it, and if one of or two on-location shoots would pay for the background, I would definitely buy it because it's quite nice system. But here for the studio, I don't need it at the moment because I have 4 other options. So I don't need the Wescott system, and also I'm going to deploy semi-permanent option here in the studio. So I don't need Wescott X-Drop, but the X-Drop is really good to shoot on location, or if you have the studio at home and you want to deploy and pack it quite quickly. So Wescott is a good option. So what I've seen, there is one stand configuration, but it can be deployed in different sizes. So you can have 5 by 8 feet, which is 1.5 meters by 2 meters and 40 centimeters. You can have it with 8 by 8 option, so it is 2.4 by 2.4 meters. And you can have it with 8 by 13 feet, so you can actually configure it like this one and have full body shot with some background being on the floor. And maybe there is also 5 by 13 option, I haven't seen it. And basically for the Wescott, for the Wescott system, this X-Drop Pro, all the backgrounds are from Textile, and they have grommets installed. So basically you can stretch it with the stand, and it is kinda wrinkle free. So that's a big pro. And I'm kinda guessing the pros because I haven't used the Wescott, although I've done full investigation. I've watched a lot of videos regarding the Wescott X-Drop Pro. So I think I have an idea how that works, and maybe I will buy it later this year. I don't know. At the moment, it does not have a big priority. But since you have this stand on which you can stretch the whole background, there are no wrinkles, and you have a lot of choices for the backgrounds, different racks, so you can swap the racks. So you can have like one color, you can have the textures. I've seen at least, I think, 20 different colors and textures for the Wescott system. If you buy one, I would again buy the middle gray one. So with middle gray, you can change to white and black. And if you use gels, you can change it to any color. Also, if I would have to choose between white and black, I would choose white. So you have a lot of choices for the colors and the textures for the Wescott X-Drop Pro, and also with 13 feet version, you can have a full body shot with some background being extended on the floor, so you can actually have a full body shot. And with 8 feet wide, you can definitely squeeze 2 people in the vertical shot. Not sure about the horizontal one, but you can have 2 people in full body shot and the background will be behind them. What are the cons of this Wescott system? Mostly the price. It is like 200 to almost 400 bucks. It depends on the version or which background is included. And I think the spare racks are like 100 to 150 bucks. I have to double check it. I don't really remember, and it probably depends what color it is and if there is a texture. So there are some texture with the spotlight on the background already, some vintage textures, and there are some solid colors, and definitely there is a white, middle gray, and black. And these are the default options. And I was considering 8 by 13 if I would buy one. And except the price, the cons are that you have to use their racks, which are also quite expensive. But there is a workaround. You can buy a grommet machine and you can actually use any textile. You just mount the grommet rings into the textile, and then you can mount any textile up there using that mount which is included, so you can actually buy just the mount and then install the grommet. The small problem is that they, I think, use 1-inch grommets, so they're quite heavy duty, so you have to also buy more expensive grommet machine, more heavy duty. Although maybe it would work with the smaller ones like 1/2 inch or these 16 millimeters ones, maybe. So the grommet machine with some grommet rings is like $30 to $50 if we are talking these smaller rings. For the 1-inch, it is a bit more expensive. But if you buy a grommet machine, then you can buy basically any textile background and make it compatible with the Wescott X-Drop Pro. So that's the workaround. But all in all, this Wescott is nice because it's wrinkle-free. There is quite nice choice of the colors and textures, but I think for me the biggest con is that it is quite expensive. Another option for the background are the Lastolite EzyFrames. This is not an EzyFrame, this is 2x2 screen, but these EzyFrames are almost exactly the same. They are 2 meters by 2.3 meters, so like almost 7 feet by almost 8 feet, and they are taller than wider, so they are like 8 feet tall and 7 feet wide. And basically it is exactly the same system, that here it is a metal frame which is quite easy to mount, and then you get a rack. And in theory this is the wrinkle-free, but not sure it's visible, but there are some wrinkles on this material, even though there is elastic material here, and also this spread quite tightly using the clamps. So the Lastolite EzyFrame is something like that. Although you have a different material for the background, it is denser material. This is just diffusion, and for the backgrounds you got solid materials, and you have like 20 different options. So actually this is quite nice option. This is also a portable option, like some other system I shown. It packs to the back like that, so it is not that heavy. It's like 10 kilos or something, and you can buy additional racks, so you have plenty of choices. So the Pro side is quite big, so this nice Pro, you can have full body shot definitely, although it does not extend on the floor. It extends past the tube on the floor, so the tube is covered, but other than that it does not extend on the floor. So if you want a nice texture on the floor, then you have to install another background on the floor. The price for the frame and one rack is around $350, something like that. Maybe you can find them a bit cheaper, like $300. I've seen the green one is the cheapest, so you can buy the frame with the green one and then buy the spare racks. But unfortunately the spare racks in Poland are around $300, so they are quite expensive. So the pros are a price to an extent, because you can buy this for around $350, the frame with one rack. If you're lucky enough, then the size is a big pro, because it's like 7 by 7 feet, so it is quite big, definitely enough for the full body shot, although does not extend on the floor. It is kinda wrinkle-free. I guess with these heavier racks there are no wrinkles like this one. It was folded in the back for a long time, so there are some wrinkles here, but it's not a background. And they have a big choice of racks with nice colors and nice textures, so there is plenty to choose from. What are the cons? Actually the price is kinda a con, because compared to all other systems it is quite expensive. And also if you buy additional racks, each rack is just one color, it is one-sided, or even if it's double-sided, it's the same color on the other side. So if you want more colors and more backgrounds with EzyFrame, Lastolite by Manfrotto system, then it is quite expensive to buy additional racks. So that's the EzyFrame. I would probably buy one or two. I don't know, at the moment I'm happy with what I have, but with this size of the background it's enough to have a sitting shot. Maybe, not sure for the standing shot, full body shot, probably it won't be wide enough, but for the sitting shot it is wide enough. So maybe I would buy one frame and two racks in near future, but I'm not sure. At the moment I'm using the collapsible backgrounds from Lastolite, and they are also big enough to cover the sitting shot or cover the vertical full body shot. So another option from Lastolite is panoramic background. It is basically system like that. So there is one big frame that size. There are actually two versions of the panoramic version. So basically there is a frame like that, and there are two smaller frames which extend to the sides. So at the end it is 2 meters and 30 centimeters high and 4 meters wide. So actually with that background you can build like a podcast set and have that background for the podcast, although you have to kind of wiggle around with the camera placements if you want to have 3 angles. It might be a bit problematic to have a background in each shot, but it depends what focal length you use. So basically this panoramic one is something like EzyFrame, but it extends up to 4 meters wide. And there is also a version which is almost 3 meters tall, so it is like 9, almost 10 feet high, and with 4 meters I think it's like 13 feet wide or something like that. I would like put it on the screen. So this panoramic background is quite nice. I thought about it, I've seen a lot of videos regarding that background. It is quite easy to deploy, it's like 10 to 15 minutes. It's better to deploy with 2 people, but you can actually deploy it just alone. It's not that bad. And then it is basically like this one, so it is spread on these frames, and you have the background which is either 8 feet by 13 feet, or which is 2.3 meters by 4 meters, or there is also a version which is 4 meters by 3 meters, so it is quite tall. And for this taller version I think you have limited option of racks, so you have a green screen, blue screen, white and black. And for the panoramic background, which is 2.3 meters high, so you have at least 10 different racks. I've seen purple, ink, sage, I think, like concrete, marble and something like that. So there are probably like 10. So, and the price is not that steep. So the green screen version is the cheapest what I've seen, and you can get it for like $600 tops. But then the spare racks cost the same. So if you want to buy the background with a color rack like this texture rack, then it is more than $1,000, like 1,100 I think. But if you buy the green one and buy the additional rack, it is actually cheaper. So you have a green screen plus additional rack and the frame, and it's cheaper than buying just a frame with the textured rack. So it is quite weird, but at least here in Poland or in Europe, this is the case. So it is easier to buy the panoramic background with the green screen and then buy additional rack. It is cheaper than if you buy just the panoramic background with the textured rack. It's weird, but that's the reality. And the last option, I think, are the wall-mounted backgrounds. So basically you mount the system close to the ceiling and then you can roll down the backgrounds. This system is around $100 for just the hangers and the lines to be able to unroll them. And the pro of the system, so this is really fast to deploy each background because you just roll it down with the cord or the plastic chain. So it is really easy to deploy, although you have to spend like an hour to hang it. And that system is able to accommodate different widths, although you have to decide which width of the background you want. And the con is that it's permanently attached to the wall, although there is a way to do it semi-permanently, which I will probably do either in this room or the other room I have. But generally these systems you have on the wall, I've seen that they allow up to 8 different backgrounds, but then if you have a lot of backgrounds, you have to hang it really high to be able to have the lowest background also out of the frame, like the end of the background or the rolling system have to be out of the frame. So usually they are for 3 or 4 backgrounds, and you can mount these plastic backgrounds I shown, these which are there. You can mount the paper backgrounds on this system, and you can mount the textile backgrounds on the system. But the workaround is that you can basically use the autopole, attach it like that. So you have the autopole attached like that, it's attached to the ceiling and to the floor, and it's not going anywhere. So you attach 2 of these, and you can actually attach this background hanging system to the autopole, on top of the autopole, using Manfrotto super clamp. They actually sell the sets ready to use with the super clamps and autopoles. So I think I would deploy something like that here. The problem is that I have this fake ceiling, so not sure I would be able to squeeze it in, but maybe, because with this system you can have like 8 different backgrounds, but you have 2 hangers. One hanger on one side of the autopole, another hanger in front of the autopole, and you have 8 backgrounds which are basically in front of each other. They are not one above each other, but you have 4 in front and 4 in the back, and that way you don't need a really tall ceiling to be able to have 8 backgrounds. Although I'm not sure, I would probably install 4 and that would be enough. So I think that would be my go-to permanent setup. I can actually take it off within 20 minutes or maybe even 10 and move to different building, so it is not that it's screwed into the wall. So in my opinion, this is the best one, but you have to spend like $70 on each autopole, so you have to spend 150 on autopoles, then you have to buy at least 2 super clamps, and then you have to spend like $100 or 130, depends how many backgrounds you want to hang. If you want 4, is something like $130. So the whole system without the backgrounds itself, it will be like 300, maybe $350, but the plus is it is semi-permanent, so you can kind of detach it from the wall within like 15 minutes. So that's a big plus. And this is the system with the cords or the chains, so you can like swap the background within a minute. You just roll up one and roll down the other one, and you can have different color. And of course, if you use long enough backgrounds, you can have them on the floor. And that's the plan, to have it probably here, to have the system like that. And this is kind of permanent solution, which is not really permanent because you can take it down really fast and move it to a different room actually. So it is quite nice solution. I would probably have it till the end of this year. Not sure it would be this room or another room, but I plan to have such a system. I'm not sure I would use the paper backgrounds or textile backgrounds for this, but basically for such a system you can choose these plasticky ones I shown, you can choose the paper ones, and you can choose the textile, or you can actually mix the textile with paper and plastic ones because they have the standardized length. So if you decide on the length, then you can have it, I think. So this room is actually 4 meters wide, so I would probably have 3 meters wide background, maybe 2.6 meters, depends, because there are doors, so not sure I would like to cover the door, but I will see. There is a different way to get to the room which is behind this door, so maybe actually I would install something which is 4 meters wide, I don't know. But this white backgrounds are quite expensive, so maybe 3 meters would be enough, because the backgrounds I would use mostly for photos, so not for the video. So most of the photos are vertical if we are talking portraits and even full body shots. Most of them are vertical, although maybe if there is a group photo, then I need something wider. That's the most expensive version, because these backgrounds on the rolls can be even $300 each. So if you are talking for really wide and long backgrounds, then the system with 4 backgrounds is like $350 for the system, and then it is almost $1,500 for the backgrounds, because there are 330, something like that. So the whole system would be like 2K, around 2K. And the plus is that you can swap the backgrounds. So if you attach the backgrounds, you can actually swap them. You won't swap them mid-session, but after the session, or before the session, you can swap the color if you have something in mind. So even if you have 4 hangers, you can have more backgrounds in the storage and swap them. But with such a system, with the autopole, you can actually have 8 installed at the same time. And if you get a really high ceiling, you can have 2 hangers with 6, so you can have 12 backgrounds installed at the same time. But the problem is that here I have this fake ceiling, so there won't be enough room to have the systems far away from the wall to accommodate that many. But here I can definitely I can have 4, I think, because this fake ceiling is quite high. That's other options. So we have the cheapest option is $0. The most expensive is 2K, and of course there are much more expensive options, because actually the prices of the photo backgrounds are unlimited. So there are probably really expensive textile backgrounds, which each background is $1,000, but I haven't explored such options because I don't need them. So these are all the systems you can have, and the affiliate links are in the background. If you use them, you help the channel grow. That's it, and cheers, mate!